Thursday, everybody. And now let's talk automation.
When we take a look at automation, knowing that we're talking about kind of these three areas and kind of across the entire organization, from your perspective, is there a right place to start an automation journey? And, is that the front, the middle, the back office? Is there an answer that's right for every organization, in your opinion?
I think the answer is that it's really different teams that are starting out. You're starting with very different initial budgets, very different initial sponsors, and the outcome when you're talking about front office to back office is very different. Front is around the external customer. It's very focused on revenue and retention. Its processes are around multi-person, human-to-human interaction, and a lot of the skill sets require a little bit more of a right brain arts type of thinking. Back office, on the other hand, is more around your internal employees. It's generally a bit more around cost center focused. The processes are more about individual human to system interactions that you're trying to automate, and again, the requires a little bit more of left brain thinking, more logic type of thinking that's involved for those. But ultimately, we're trying to prevent unnecessary work for customers, suppliers, internal employees, and to maximize both sides. At some point, some senior executive steps in with the mandate to improve across business functions, end to end for the company. And you'll see that at most very successful use case customers that are speaking. I was on Blue Prism World for the last 3 days listening to that. So, but for the same software can also be used to automate end-to-end processes for a digital worker that can also be repurposed as a digital assistant. So anyway, in the end, you can ultimately use the same back-end systems integrations, APIs, RPA technology, and switch that over to more front-end solutions to feed things that are doing self-service, front-end screen aggregation, next best action guidance, bring those all together.
Valor, I want to come to you and more specifically focus in on the thought process of the front office and the contact center, call center type functions. And from your experience and what you've seen within the industry, what are the types of solutions and technologies that you're finding are truly transformational in these front office functions?
Okay, well, there's a plethora of different solutions, but the best way to break it up is to say, where do you put it in that customer journey, in the process of supporting that customer? And so there are four main areas, and the first bit is going to be when you're first coming into the contact center, the IVR, the chatbot, or anything that's kind of that first line of defense where you have an opportunity to help the customer with the least amount of effort through a virtual agent or through giving them data through the IVR or routing them to the correct FAQ. Now, the second part, speaking of routing, is intelligent routing. So once they've gotten past that bit and they're not satisfied, they do want to talk to somebody, then you can use AI and automation in actually understanding, okay, what bits of information did they look at that's route them to the right agent based on maybe past sentiment analysis or past satisfaction levels through intelligent routing with the information that they were looking at to that agent. So that's the second bit. And then the third bit is actually going to be agent assist or human in the loop, that kind of thing where they're actually with the agent and the agent is finding out what their query might be. And part of the information that they've been looking for or needing or trying to get done is actually automated or populated through RPA or through the data that came over through the IVR or the chatbot through the intelligent routing. So now the agent actually has more time to talk to the customer about the issue, address the emotive components of it, the complexity of it, but also be able to get through that call with the least amount of effort themselves because of these things being supported with the RPA, the automation or the AI or whatever the technology is that's supporting that agent. And then finally, the last bit out of those four pieces is going to be post-call or after the contact to understand exactly what the next best action is. Actually, as Josh was pointing out, okay, the customer wanted this, and that these customers that tend to want this, they tend to call back for this other reason. So let's go ahead and shoot them a note saying, okay, well, here's that coupon you might want to look at afterwards, or here's some information regarding this technology that you purchased, the washer or the dryer, or whatever it is. And then also the satisfaction levels. I know here's an opportunity for you to rate our effort level or the agents, how nice they were, and then please provide some, comments. Then take all of that entire journey, all the data from that entire journey, and start to build a profile around the customer so that you can, again, understand how they might interact with you in the future. So there's 4 bits there, using all different types of technologies to address supporting that customer.
If an organization wants to be data-driven, a little bit of what Valor was just talking about there, do they need to have all of their organization transformed and automated to be able to accomplish that goal and feel truly transformed as an organization?
I'm going to say the short answer, Emma, is yes. And that's the key bit where you've used the words digital transformation. A lot of organizations who use robotics and AI and whatever other tool they've got tend to transform, if that's the word, particular parts of the organization. And then they really struggle to scale it because for whatever reason, there's lots of them well published, they just can't do it. Transformation involves re-digitizing, redesigning, reimagining the organization itself. And that's using a collection of different automation tools and technologies and digital pieces of this, that, and the other, really to get an organization to operate and behave differently. And that's not just the product set, that's the skill set and the mindset of all the individuals in it. To be truly data-driven, you need the hindsight, you need the foresight, and you need the insight behind all of the things that are happening in the organization. You don't want to deal with a partial answer. You don't want to deal with, part of the equation. And therefore, yes, I would say that you do need to transform the entire organization to get all of the information, i.e. the data that is, when people have described it as the new gold, from the beginning of the process to the middle of the process to the end of the process to make a complete decision. If you're not doing that, then you will always have an incomplete decision, regardless of what way you look at it. So yes, is the short answer. Data from beginning, middle, and end.
I do want to take a little bit of a different lens to this idea. And, we're talking about automation, and certainly within this group, and, Josh, you mentioned in your introduction that you work with a lot of heavily compliant organizations. And I want to touch on this idea of compliance a little. And I'm going to come to you, Valor, first to talk about how automating the front office processes can support compliance within your organization from that lens.
Okay, so actually there's 2 paths here. Well, 3 things I wanted to point out. One is when you have agent assist and you're in this financial situation that claims, anything where there is a compliance component, then there are forms that can be pre-filled out based on the customer information, pulling it from the CRM, pulling it from whatever they might have filled out themselves on the web, and getting that accurately populated on the document for the agent, so the agent can wrap it up and make sure that anything that goes out, is all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Now, the other bit too is using speech analytics, where text-to-speech actually identifies when the agent is reading that compliance component, or now that you've agreed to these terms, A, B, and C there, that they say all those things. And there's technologies out there that will actually ping the agent to say, look, you forgot to tell them about, the 20%, surcharge if they don't pay their bills on time or whatever it might be. So there's huge opportunity for things to get populated correctly every single time, because you don't want any errors in there, and also to remind the agent that, you needed to say these things, and this call is not going any further unless these things are said. One other thing regarding compliance, I just kind of wanted to point out, especially here in Europe, is where you're actually looking for vulnerable people, and so using speech analytics and contact analytics, and actually identifying if your company is compliant in the sense of identifying that this person said, "Oh, I'm really sad. I haven't talked to anybody in 10 months, and I can't pay my bills." Popping that up as a vulnerable customer, and make sure you're compliant and getting that customer the help that they need from that standpoint as well, which is another area of compliance that is not talked about that much.
So Josh, I want to come to you then with that lens of working in highly compliant organizations, and maybe stepping away from the front office, and you can certainly touch on that if you'd like, but looking at how we can support compliance with digital transformation across the entire organization.
If I kind of merge the contact center lens into this and bring it up with back office, there's kind of two angles that come to mind. Valor actually hit on both of these in a little bit of a way. First, you can take kind of the big brother approach of, say, tracking agent interactions, but that can be done with the goal of adhering to governance and policies. Or you could take an example like from the pharmaceutical industry, where you can use that tracking around, say, natural language processing to identify key phrases. Sometimes that might be specifically for, the call for help type of situation, but it also can be analyzing things like adverse event flags, adverse event tracking that otherwise an agent would have to be scrutinizing every single word on a call, on a conversation, to find all of those, versus necessarily having a human interaction. We can have software that's helping to monitor that.
When we take a look at the final message for the group today, is really looking at, there might not be one single point that we can tell you, this is your start point for automation. But the ultimate message is that digital transformation is not one department, it's not one process, it's not one area. For you to be successful and truly manage that transformation, you have to have the plan to extend those automations across the organization. Now, it's a tall order, and we understand that, and that's part of why we'll be back with more of these discussions in coming months to continue kind of unpacking that and getting expert insights on how to do that. But I would encourage you all, if you are not connected with Valor and Josh, make your way over to their LinkedIns, connect with them, watch their video series. They are both a wealth of knowledge. And with that, I'm a minute over. So I'm going to say, have a happy third Thursday, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us.